No man is an island. His ship goes where it may. Storms and dangerous channels. And suddenly he will say, I crossed the world to remember my buried, broken heart. But all I hear of my treasure are the last words she'd impart. Good fortune I wish you, and also gentle winds. My salt kiss from the ocean will dance more in heaven. No hombre es un isla, su barco va no sé, a través de tormentas, y decir puede. Crucé el mundo para recordar, pero todo lo que escucho son las palabras últimas. Ventura, mi tesoro, y vientos suaves, mi beso del mar, bailaremos en cielo. No hombre es un isla, su barco va no sé, a través de tormentas, y decir puede. Crucé el mundo para recordar, pero todo lo que escucho son las palabras últimas. Ventura, mi tesoro, y vientos suaves, mi beso del mar, bailaremos en cielo.
Thank you very much. That was Paul Piazza bringing us into our 2020 State of the City address. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Caldwell, and I am very proud to serve as the President and CEO of the Ventura Chamber of Commerce. And before we get started this morning, I'd like you all to join me as we honor our great nation with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand and join me with the pledge. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I wish I could see all of your faces out there, but I trust that you're out there and that you enjoyed the music of Paul Piazza as much as we did here in this room. To say that 2020 has been a typical year, I think none of us could agree to that. So thank you. We are so pleased to have you all here with us this morning. We do have an informative program for you, and we hope that it will provide some thoughtful perspectives and maybe some increased optimism for what lies ahead for all of us. This year has been very unique. That, I think, is an understatement. And words that were freely tossed around this year, like unprecedented, seem to have kind of lost the impact that they normally had. We have all become more adept in the virtues of Zoom and WebEx and other streaming platforms, more so than I think many of us ever thought that we would, ever thought possible. If there was a question if the workforce could be productive or as productive working from home, I think that too has been proven. So for sure, we can all agree that 2020 has become something much different than what the year that we anticipated it was going to be. Even with the uncertainty and hardship, however, there have been good things that have been happening. Many businesses quickly pivoted their operations to provide much needed products or services and supplies. Relationships have been strengthened and new partnerships have been formed. It's abundantly clear that we are a connected society and that we depend greatly on each other for a prosperous and well-functioning community. The Chamber's primary mission is to ensure a strong economic growth, job creation, and to attract new capital investments into the city of Ventura. Our Chamber is primarily made up of small businesses, the owners of which are our neighbors and friends. They live right here in our community. 92% of Chamber member businesses have 50 or fewer employees, and 82% of those businesses have 20 or fewer. So we truly are powered by small business. We're connected to our members, and we try and really connect our members to the information, resources, and opportunities that they need to be successful. We do this through the following tenets: by providing networking and visibility opportunities, by representing business interests to government, by promoting our community, and initiating political action. This year, the COVID-19 pandemic has created a number of challenges for our businesses, many of whom have still not been able to open or operate at full capacity. We have seen record unemployment, and we know that there is still more fallout yet to come. Even with that, though, there have been opportunities for new businesses and many who have pivoted, as I mentioned, sharply to adjust their operations to accommodate this new norm. One thing I'm certain of: your Chamber will continue to fight for you, support you, and provide you with the latest information and resources available. Our community is strong, and we will remain so. The next few months will continue to bring us challenges. We will work to find solutions to recover from this crisis. I invite you to join us as we develop these strategies. We need your voice. By working together, we can truly shape our community to ensure that we remain the best place to live, work, and do business. Anytime we have an opportunity to bring together our business and elected leaders, I feel compelled to thank you, each of you, for what you bring to this amazing community. I hope that you will continue to engage with the Chamber this coming year, and thank you for your membership, partnership, and support. At this time, I'd like to thank a very special group of individuals, our dedicated and hardworking board of directors. Usually at these events, I ask them to stand so that they can be recognized, but obviously that's not possible in this format. So let me tell you a little bit about them. The Chamber is governed by a 26-member board of very dedicated individuals. And they represent they're a diverse group of individuals, but they even more importantly represent a diverse group of industries and businesses. So I thank you for your efforts on behalf of the business community. I would also like to thank our Ventura Chamber PAC trustees, also an engaged group of members who serve on our Political Action Committee. Their role is to identify and help elect business-friendly candidates to office. Thank you for your efforts. We also have a number of special guests with us today. I'd like to call out a few of them. I know Mike Pettit from Ventura County is here, along with many of his colleagues. And then, of course, from the City of Ventura, our partner for today, we have our Mayor, Matt LaVere, as well as a number of council members, Cheryl Heitman, Christy Weir, Jim Friedman, and Sophia Rubalcava. Thank you so much for joining us. Also, City Manager Alex McIntyre and many of his department heads and staff, including the Police Chief, Darren Schindler, and the Fire Chief, David Ndaya. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate the service to our community. Of course, these events would not be possible without the generosity of many, many supporters and sponsors. It is through the generosity of our sponsors that we were able to provide this as a free forum for not only our members, but the community this afternoon. So I'd like to thank our title sponsor, the Ventura Auto Center, our platinum sponsors, the City of Ventura, 4 Points by Sheraton Ventura Harbor, and Hofer Properties. Our gold sponsors, Era Energy, California Resources Corporation, and Southern California Edison. Our silver sponsors, Kaiser Permanente and Ventura County Credit Union. And our bronze sponsors, Bank of the Sierra, Crown Plaza Ventura Beach, CSU Channel Islands, E.J. Harrison and Sons, Gold Coast Transit District, Montecito Bank and Trust, Tolman and Weicker Insurance Services, UCLA Health, and Vista Del Mar Hospital. And of course, our media sponsors, CAPS Media Center, Gold Coast Broadcasting, Lunars Production Services, Pacific Coast Business Times, Ventura Adult and Continuing Education, VC Reporter, and the Ventura Breeze. As a membership-based organization, the Chamber is 100% funded by member contributions. It is through these membership investments that we are able to complete our annual scope of work. A very special group of our members make up our Chairman Circle. I would like to recognize them as their logos appear on the screen. Thank you again for your support and your engagement. And it is now my honor and pleasure to introduce the chair of the Chamber's 2020 Board of Directors, Brad Golden.
Thank you, Stephanie. And good morning, everyone. Stephanie, I want to tell you, we appreciate your dedication, your passion, and your commitment, and your friendship. You've been fantastic here leading our chamber for the past 5 years. So once again, I'd like to thank all of our dedicated sponsors and our Chairman Circle members for supporting us, particularly during this year, which is obviously unique in any other word you can imagine. So, and our membership has stayed with us strong as well, and we've supported them. And the city has been through quite a bit the last few years, and for their support, and we appreciate that. I do want to give a special shout out to Jeff Souquet and the Ventura Auto Center. They do an amazing job over there, and we appreciate everything they do. So I want to ask all of us, if you're like me, I've sent my kids back to virtual school, and I have two high schoolers. One was an entering freshman at Ventura High School, so that's an interesting freshman year. And of course, they have virtual English, virtual math, and even virtual sports, which kind of surprised me. Like our chamber members and our friends at the city, obviously school has been a challenge for the admin, the teachers, and the students alike. And speaking of English, I've learned a few new terms over the past 6 months that I'm sure we're all familiar with. Some of the new terms, of course, we're very familiar with, and Stephanie alluded to, is Zoom. What we didn't know is that Zoom was going to become a noun, an adjective, a verb, and sometimes in my house, even a profanity. So we get used to that, I guess. And then PPE, I had never heard that term, and we're all familiar with what that means and how important that's been. And then, of course, there's some terms English-wise that we probably never want to hear again. Flatten the curve. We've heard that and understand it. Social distancing. I mean, that's just part of our vocabulary. And then I officially am going to petition Webster to retire the word unprecedented. We've just heard it so much. And moving on to math, virtual math. If you're like me, your kids come in every now and then and slam an algebra problem at you that you haven't seen in 30 plus years, and you have to try to figure it out. Well, it makes me think of all the challenges our businesses and even the city's gone through and the math that they've had to do the past 6 months. Can I pay my rent? Can I order supplies, and how much do I order? Who is furloughed and when? And can I make payroll? I salute our businesses and the city for getting through the past 6 months and doing that math and keeping an eye on that math during this pandemic. And once again, did you know your kids are doing virtual sports? I love sports and the analogy to everyday life. Americans like to support their team, and we love to win. I think we have defined our teams incorrectly in this pandemic game. It shouldn't be us versus them, or me versus the non-mask, or mask versus the non-mask. It's us versus it. We are all on the same team here. The teams are not what's in jeopardy here. The entire sport is. I check the COVID scoreboard every day, and we are winning. Let's finish this, and we will all win. I salute our chamber membership and the city of Ventura and all those things that everybody's using to be creative and to persevere and get through this. We're all rooting for you. We are on your team. You are our team. We are all one team. And now I'd like to introduce our mayor, Matt LaVere, who's become a good friend. And I'll tell you, sometimes I think the times pick the leader, and boy, are we lucky to have Matt the past few years. He's never ending. I don't know when he sleeps or when he actually works, but we really appreciate his leadership the past few years. And although we're going to miss him at the city, we're looking forward to supporting him and working with him at the supervisor level. So, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thank you, Stephanie, and thank all of you for being here today for what is likely the first virtual State of the City in Ventura's long and storied history. If you're like me, this is the first of several Zoom calls you have today, so I will try to make it a little more interesting than the ones we all have to endure later. The theme this year, if you go to the next slide, please, is focus on recovery, rising above a pandemic in Ventura. We are now, you can go back a slide, I'm sorry. Yeah, you could, we are now 6 months into this COVID pandemic. And I've just heard countless stories, story after story of the ways that this pandemic has personally impacted so many families, individuals, and small businesses. And it truly is heartbreaking, because I understand how many of us, our family and our friends, are struggling right now. But if you're like me, when you're in these difficult situations, what I try to do is I always try to find that silver lining. How are we going to come out of this difficult situation stronger, improved? What positive can we bring out and make out of this negative? And in our brief time today, what I hope you get out of my talk is that, as difficult as 2020 has been, I believe the city truly is well positioned for a successful recovery. And I think there are great things ahead in 2021 and the years to come. Next slide, please. So this is your Ventura City Council and the districts we represent. It really is an incredible group of men and women that I have had the privilege of serving with the past 4 years. I see how some other elected bodies act, and I can tell you that even when we disagree, the civility and the professionalism that we show on a weekly basis really shows the mutual respect that we all have for each other. And as a hometown kid, it really has been the honor of a lifetime to lead this council as mayor. Next slide, please. So rising above to reimagine city services. When the COVID pandemic hit and we realized how it was going to completely alter the way all of us lived our lives, the same thing applied to the city. The city had to completely alter the way that it did business, really in the snap of a finger. We, as a city, quickly had to transition. That building you see right there normally would have several hundred people working in it. In one day, all of those individuals were working from home, and the city really had to flip on a dime and change the way that it did business. And what happened was that the people's business never stopped, and the city did everything it could to make sure that this transition in the way that we provided our services kept that business going. It wasn't all cupcakes and kittens. I'll be the first person to admit that there was a struggle initially. Moving a system that had largely been in person and moving that online, making it digital, took some time. And there were some shared stresses that many in the community felt trying to interact with the city during those first couple weeks and month. But I believe the system that we have in place now moving forward really sets us up well for success. I can tell a brief story I heard from an architect friend of mine recently who was really struggling to get permits. And there was, I think, 6 to 8 weeks, maybe it was even 2 months, where he said, I just couldn't get anything out of the city. And that was during this transition period. But then he said all of a sudden he got 3 or 4 permits within a period of a week. And it showed that the system that we have put in place is going to work. And that's why I'm so excited moving forward about what we as a city can offer to the public in terms of services. We've largely gone online. We've streamlined. We've accomplished numerous objectives that were called for in the Matrix report. Many of you know that's the report that had us look at our development and community planning process. And there's 57 things that it asked us to change to become more up to date and just to have best practices. And many of those items that were called for in the Matrix report have been implemented through this transition into online and digital services. So that's one thing that I'm very proud of. And I want to thank Peter Gilley, Netta, and the entire community development department, and Ian Livingston, our building official, for working so hard to bring all these services online. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, March 15th, that's when we declared our state of emergency. March 23rd, our city facilities were forced to close. And ever since then, it's been a nonstop effort by everyone at the city to make sure that people's business is maintained. Next slide, please. To show kind of what we had to do, in the past 26 weeks, we've had 22 city council meetings that were moved online virtually. And on top of that, we've had 47 boards, commissions, and committee meetings. All of those obviously done virtual as well. And that doesn't include the numerous administrative hearings that have been held by our planning staff. And I show these stats just to show that in this transition, it happened quickly. But even with the transition that we had to make, we are still working really hard, and the work has not slowed down in the least. Next slide, please. Well, part of the thing that really eased this transition was the outreach that we were able to do. Obviously, the public had questions about what these new services and what this new operation was going to be like. And Heather Sumagaisai and our entire PIO team have worked tirelessly to make sure the public is constantly kept up to date with what's happening at the city. We have a website dedicated just to businesses. Thank you to Estelle Busa and Carrie Glenn for their work in having a one-stop shop for all of our businesses to come and see what the new rules are, how you can open, how you can meet what seems like constantly changing rules coming out of Sacramento. And then we also have a COVID-specific site to where people can understand what the latest health orders are, what the latest openings and closings in the city are. And with these one-stop shop websites, I think the city has done an incredible job of outreach and keeping the public up to date with what's going on. In times of difficulty, the one thing that I think cities need to concentrate on above all else is communication, transparency, and keeping people up to date with the latest information. And I'm proud of the way the city has handled this COVID pandemic. Next slide, please. A program that I want to support, talking about the services that we provide to our city. One of those services that we provide is aid to the less fortunate. And so, 3 programs I want to talk about. Our Parks and Recreation Department, in partnership with Food Share, in partnership with the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging, World Central Kitchen, and particularly our West Side Community Council. They have provided, just since March, 21,275 home-delivered meals to seniors in the city. 12,000 meals have been distributed to seniors at the Ventura Avenue Adult Center, and 550 families are distributed food monthly at the West Park Community Center. And none of that would be possible without a strong partnership with the West Side Community Council. And I really want to single out and thank Chair James Forsyth, Liz Campos, my friend who you see in the picture, and Kevin Clarisi. Thanks to all of you for your partnership in making these services possible to those that need them here in Ventura. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. I'm sorry. There we go. Budget. In mid-March, the city, our budget team, had largely had a budget in place that was going to be discussed and voted on. They had probably done 90% of the work. As you know, a budget cycle typically takes about 6 months to put a city budget together. It's typically about a $300 million budget, about $120, $130 million general fund budget. It takes a lot of work to do that. And in March, our team had to completely pivot and start over. All of the calculations, all of the assumptions we had made were turned on their head. And I want to thank Alex and Michael and Greg and the entire budget team for what they did to transition, to pivot. And in 2 months, they put together a balanced budget. Needless to say, there was an $11.1 million deficit that we had to face because of the impacts of COVID and the realities Ventura was now facing. With that, we were able to pass a balanced budget in June. And we were able to do that without laying off a single critical city employee, any employees. And I say critical because I think all of our city employees serve critical functions. And I'm incredibly proud of the city team we've put together. But as you can see, we did it by every single city employee. It was a shared sacrifice across the board. Every city employee, from the city manager to everyone else. A 40-hour furlough during the year. We suspended all merit and COLA adjustments. We created a voluntary employee separation program in which 10 employees took part. And we had to freeze 14 positions and eliminate 12 vacant positions. But through this creative work, in the end, we were able to pass a balanced budget. And that's something I'm incredibly proud of. And then I briefly want to cover some department highlights as we go through what the city looked like in 2020 and what 2021 might look like. If you go to the next slide, please. We, through this pandemic, it's been more important than ever to cover the impactful work still going on. Even with our new reality, nothing has slowed down at the city, and we're still accomplishing so much. And that's what I kind of want to cover in the next few slides. If we could do the next slide, please. In the community development department, as I mentioned briefly, the whole system had to go online. And what that's been great, the reason that's been great is because what used to require coming into City Hall and either waiting in line or just having to even take the drive to City Hall, all of that is online now. From anytime, anywhere, any place, you can submit plans, try to get permits electronically. And I know from talking with many people in the community, this has really helped them. There's a new website, which is specifically designed to focus on this new development services team. And as we go through this navigation, I think it's really important to talk about how with this virtual one-stop shop, it's everything that we've talked about in the past. The confusion of having to go from department to department now is all in one place, a virtual one-stop shop. And I really invite people to look into this process more, because I think the results are going to speak for themselves. And I think that anybody who has to go through, whether it's a home rebuild, a business trying to do a tenant improvement, this new one-stop shop is going to serve you well. And I'm incredibly excited about it. Next slide, please. I also want to talk about another new feature that's been put out by our community development team, and that is a real-time interactive map. Since March 2020, there have been 5,562 inspections completed, 1,560 building permits issued, and there's been over 14,000 calls. And one of the things that I hear about constantly is wanting to know from people in the public, what's going on in my neighborhood? What's going on with that vacant lot somewhere in the town? I heard a rumor about a new building being worked on. And so what we have done now with this virtual map is you get real-time data on every project across the city. And if you go to that map, and you can see it on there, it's called the Interactive Map in the Community Development Department website. You can find out every new application that's come in for a building permit, all the projects that are under review, all the projects that are set for hearing, all the projects which have recently been acted on, all of the projects which have been entitled, and all of the projects which are currently under construction. So really, any question you have about building or development in the city is now online, and you get real-time data on those projects. That was something that was recommended by the Matrix report, and it's something that I'm really proud of our city staff for putting online so quickly, because that's the transparency in the development process that our public deserves. Next slide, please. I want to talk about 3 projects which are coming online really quickly. As we work on the housing needs of Ventura, we often talk about workforce housing as being one of the needs that we really have to focus on. Those people that want to live and work in Ventura, and where are they going to live? And so that's something that I really am proud to discuss in these next 3 slides. The first one is this Anacapa Court project. Many of you know that is the old Top Hat site in downtown. That is going to be a mixed-use project, and I have some actual news to share. This went before our planning commission last night, and it received unanimous approval. And so that's something which is going to be added to our downtown stock, and it's something which I think is going to really improve that lot, which has been vacant now for which it appears to 10 or 15 years at least. And so that's something that's going to be a new addition to our downtown. Next slide, please. Coastline Ventura. This is a project which many of you have seen on the bluff overlooking our pier. Ultimately, it is going to have 231 units. It includes also a public promenade and a public park, which is going to serve our community for anybody who wants to come take a walk along the shoreline bluff there. It's already open to phase one. People are moving in. I've heard phase one has 75% occupancy already, and we anticipate phases 2 and 3 and 4 coming online shortly. But this is something that's been a real nice addition to Ventura, and I think it's a beautiful project and providing much needed housing. Next slide, please. And lastly, this is the Portside Ventura Harbor, which is also recently started leasing phase 1 and 2. This is going to ultimately have 271 units down in Ventura Harbor. It includes over 21,000 square feet of commercial space as well. And some of the benefits to the public: it has a public marina with 120 slips, public docks for those that want to come launch a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard, a waterfront promenade, again, a waterfront park, many features that are going to benefit the community as well as the residents. And this project, again, was a long time in the making, but the final product I think is beautiful, and I'm incredibly excited to have that online right now as well. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through this quickly. I don't want to take up too much time, but I at least want to cover all of the hard work that our Public Works Department is doing now. You can see the stats, and they speak for themselves. Close to 50 miles of road work and lane miles repaired this year, 28 capital improvement projects, 17 Measure O projects, if you include the CDB projects that we've done, over 2,000 potholes filled. Next slide, please. You can talk about the sidewalk repairs, the street repairs, the capital improvement, street resurfacing. Our Public Works Department has been busy, and a lot of that wouldn't be possible without the public's trust in giving us Measure O. The Measure O funding has contributed so much to the work that we're able to do in terms of our capital improvement projects and our overall public works projects. I thank the public for trusting us with this money, and I believe that, as all my colleagues would agree, that we are spending this money wisely for the public good. And I hope that people see all of the street and sidewalk and road repairs we've done. Not to say we don't have a lot more to do, and I can promise you that as we finish 2020 and move into 2021, this work is going to continue, and you are going to see more and more infrastructure work performed, which is critical to the needs of so many in our city. Next slide, please. You can just, these in the next couple of slides are just pictures I want to show you of the work we've done, replacing alleys, the Wellness District parking lot by CMH Hospital. Next slide, please. Some of the road repairs we've performed. We can skip those, but there you go. Yeah, Alameda Street, Anthony Drive. Okay, Measure O. Again, talking about Measure O and the services that we're able to provide. Our arch, the new homeless shelter in Ventura, would not be possible without Measure O dollars. And it's a question I get a lot recently. How is the shelter doing? What's the latest with the pandemic? In late January, we were able to open up the county's first 24-hour emergency shelter, homeless shelter. It's a wraparound services where you come and we deal with you individually. There's no one-size-fits-all policy or benefit to the homeless situation. You know, we have to deal with everybody who's homeless on the streets for whatever that individual specific reason is. We have to meet those needs and to provide them the help they need. And that's what's so cool about this new shelter, is that all of those services are provided on site, whether you need drug and alcohol treatment, workforce development, mental health counseling, family reunification. All of that happens on site with really individualized care. And as of March, you know, this shelter became even more important as we looked to protect the most vulnerable among us with this pandemic. And it was full for a while at 55 beds. With new COVID restrictions in place and social distancing rules, we are now maxed out at 32 beds. But again, that is full. There's actually a wait list of over 100 people looking to get into the shelter. I'm excited to let the public know that since the shelter has been open, we have already moved 8 residents to full-time permanent housing. And we're looking and we're working so hard to place the current 32 individuals in the shelter right now in similar housing, so that we can start taking people off the wait list and working to provide anybody in Ventura who wants help the help they need. Lastly, I'm just really happy to let everybody know that as of today, no staff is sick, no residents are sick. Everybody is healthy at the shelter, and we've been able to guard against the COVID spread there at the Arch. Next slide, please. want to talk about some business information updates. And Kevin is going to talk about this more as well. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the Main Street Moves project, but I want to touch on it briefly. Since the pandemic, our staff, Estelle, Carrie, and our planning staff have worked to permit 96 businesses to do outdoor operations. And that includes 47 in our Main Street Moves project. If you've been to Main Street Moves, you'll see that it's the closure of our Main Street for 6 blocks. We've closed it down to vehicular traffic to allow our downtown businesses to expand outdoors. Given the current state of the pandemic and the closure orders in place right now out of Sacramento, it is more critical than ever that the city do whatever it can to support our businesses here in the city. And by opening Main Street Moves and allowing these businesses to expand outdoors, we've really provided a lifeline to many of these businesses. And I can assure you that the city is working as hard as it can to support businesses across the city. Because in times like this and pandemics like this, we need to do whatever we can to provide businesses in the city the help and the support they need. And I know that there's many in the city working around the clock to achieve those results and meet those needs. And I particularly want to thank Nancy O'Connor and her team at the Parks Department, because one thing that we've been able to do also is expand and allow businesses to operate in our parks. A lot of fitness studios, yoga studios, and other outdoor classes are taking place in our parks right now. If you are a fitness studio or have any interest in operating in our parks, please contact Nancy, and she makes it so easy for you. I've heard so many great stories about working with Nancy, and I want to thank her. And then lastly, I want to talk about youth sports. I know that there's a lot of frustration right now from parents and kids about some of the youth sports restrictions in place with league play. And I understand those frustrations, but the city, one thing we've been able to do is open up our parks to allow youth practices, drills, conditioning, all of the youth activities allowed under the law. We've been working to make sure those happen in our parks. I know several of our large youth sports clubs, Ventura Fusion and Ventura Football Club, are now training in our parks. And I'm really happy to let the public know that we have been able to utilize our parks to support our youth in continuing these sports. Next slide, please. Some other news I want to share. Trade Desk, some really exciting news. They've recently completed renovations of the 4th and 5th floors of 505 Pole, the building behind City Hall. These are pictures from the new renovations. They did a multi-million-dollar investment. Trade Desk, it really is one of the core companies in our city. They have 160 employees currently. They have a 5-year plan to increase that by 2 or 3-fold. And these are the kind of jobs, the 21st century jobs that I'm so excited about that are coming to Ventura. And I know everyone in the city is really eager to work with Trade Desk as they go through the process of developing and building their global headquarters right in the heart of our downtown. But I wanted to provide this update that the renovation has been completed at 505. And from what I hear, they are looking to bring people in early in the new year. Next slide, please. I also want to hit on briefly another economic development piece which has recently come online, and that is the Auto Center sign. This sign was years in the making, and what was so important to me about this sign was supporting our auto dealers. These auto dealers employ close to 1,200 people in our city, and they are our largest sales tax generator. So all of these road repairs, public safety, all of the improvements that we want to see, they all cost money. And through the sales tax generated by the Auto Center, we're able to achieve a lot of those results. And so I wanted to at least acknowledge this new sign being on board. It has provided great marketing and promotion to our 10 auto dealers, hopefully 11 soon in our Auto Center. And even more than that, it's also provided a big impact and benefit to the community. As I talked about earlier, public outreach and communication has become so important through this pandemic. And the city has 5% of all time on the sign to provide that outreach. If it's reminding people about wearing masks in public, if it's about reminding people to come support local businesses, if it's reminding people about new services being offered by the city, we're able to broadcast that on this beautiful new screen. And I want to thank the Auto Center for bringing this on board and recognize the benefits that it's bringing to the city. Next slide, please. Speaking of recovery, there's one thing that I want to address, and that's the Thomas Fire. And I want to provide the latest stats on that. If you can do the next slide. We're coming up on our 3rd year anniversary of the Thomas Fire on December 4th. And I want to let people know that the latest stats so far as of yesterday. 440 repair permits have been issued. 342 homes have been approved for rebuild. 187, so that's close to 200 families are now back in their homes. 35 plans are currently in plan check, and we have 155 projects currently being constructed. Pretty soon that'll be close to 350 families which have been able to get back in their homes. There's still work to do. I know some people are still deciding what to do with their lots, and please know the city is still here. We still have the Thomas Fire rebuild ordinance in effect, and we want to be there to support you. And because until the final last person has been able to get back in their home, the work will not stop. But I just at least want to provide those last stats. Next slide, please. I also want to talk briefly about public safety. The Ventura Police Department. If you didn't hear, last year Ventura had the lowest crime rates it has seen in 20 years. And while I would love to take credit for that because of strong mayoral leadership, that's simply not the case. The truth is, it is the men and women who serve as our police officers who deserve 100% of the credit for the safety and the low crime rates you are seeing in Ventura right now. I could not be more proud of the brave men and women who serve our community as police officers. Moving forward, as many of you might know, we hired a new police chief in April, Chief Darren Schindler, who I believe has just done an amazing job since he has taken over. And one thing that I'm really proud of with Darren is he recently released the new 2020-2023 strategic plan for our police department. Given what we're seeing nationally across the country in Minneapolis, Louisville, Atlanta, you don't see that in Ventura. And that is because of the proactivity and the leadership that we have in our police department. And it really is a testament to the quality of the individuals that we hire. As the strategic plan talks about, as moving forward, not only do our police officers receive extensive training in implicit bias, discrimination, harassment, use of force techniques, de-escalation techniques, all of the tactics that help us avoid what we're seeing nationally. Not only do they already do that, we're going to increase that. And not only that, we're going to bring the community more into our police department. We're doing more community-specific policing, district commanders. We're having more in-person neighborhood watch groups where the community can interact with our police department. And I think that really is the proactive leadership from Chief Schindler that's bringing that to the surface. And I want to thank Chief Schindler, and I want to thank every single man and woman who is currently working in our police department, sworn and unsworn, for the incredible work they do on a day-to-day basis to keep our community safe. Next slide. And this is also, obviously, it goes without saying, I could not be more proud of the firefighters that we have representing our community. They are a busy bunch. The calls they take per capita are more than any other district fire department in the county, in the state. Last year, they responded to close to 17,000 incidents, over close to 19,000 individual unit responses. And even with all the work they're doing to keep us safe, they went out and provided over 800 free COVID-19 antibody tests to our community members this year over the course of several weeks. They are dedicated to our community, and I know that there's a council that's equally dedicated to them moving forward. And I just want to thank all of them, Chief Indaya, and the entire department for the work they do on a daily basis, keeping us safe. And as we come in to fire season, please keep all of our firefighters in your thoughts and prayers. I know that Oxnard recently had a significant injury with one of their firefighters at fighting a fire down at El Dorado. And just continue to keep our firefighters in your thoughts and prayers for a safe fire season. Next slide, please. Ventura Water. Water has obviously been a big issue in 2020 and is going to continue to be a big issue moving forward into 2021 and well beyond. One thing about Ventura Water that I want to focus on, because it is a Chamber of Commerce talk, is net zero. Many of you know that net zero is a fee that we charge to developers who want to come build multi-unit housing here, and it's a fee that helps us recover the water usage of these new projects. And one thing net zero applies to is not only does it apply to residential, it also applies to commercial. And prior to this year, it applied across the board, just a flat fee, whether you were a car wash or a manufacturing industrial building with one bathroom and no water usage. You had to pay the same fee. It was just based on a square footage amount. And I heard a story from a company that wanted to expand here, wanted to go from 30,000 to 100,000 square feet, double their workforce, and they were getting hit with close to a $340,000 net zero fee, even though they had a kitchen and 2 bathrooms. It was a manufacturing facility, almost no water usage. They're under the old fee, it would have been close to a $350,000 fee for them to expand and bring these jobs, which we desperately need. And so Councilmember Nazarenko and I brought forth a policy consideration, which to revise net zero as to commercial users. We said water fees should be based on water usage. And I'm proud of my council. We passed this unanimously in the spring. And now we have demand factors. So you will be charged based on what your usage is. If you are a hotel, you're going to pay more than an industrial building. If you're a restaurant, you're going to pay more than a self-storage unit business. And so we've made net zero a lot more equitable and fair. And I think this will really spur growth. And in talking with some real estate brokers and others in the manufacturing and in the industrial world, this is really going to spur investment here in Ventura. And people will be more willing to come here and bring this commercial and economic growth that we really want. But I also kind of want to highlight 2 big projects, which many of you have heard about. You can go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, and that just highlights that in the past 5 years, our water usage has gone down 20%. That shows that conservation has become a way of life here in Ventura. And I want to commend everybody in the public for this conservation and the way that it's been able to help stabilize our water system. This year, we were actually able to go from stage 3 back to stage 2. And I hope that some of you might see small decreases in your water bill because of that. But all the credit belongs to the public and everybody's concerted efforts to conserve. Next slide, please. The state water interconnection. For the past 40 years, we have been paying for the right to get state water, and we've never actually had the infrastructure to get that water. This council took the effort to say, we're going to be the council that funds the project, which is going to finally bring state water into the city. And we've made some real good progress that I want to highlight. Recently, we were able to finalize our alignment study, which shows the path that we will bring this water in partnership with Callegas and United Water and Casitas Water District. We are going to connect into the Callegas system near the Springville exit in Camarillo on the 101, go through Central Avenue, along the 118 through a pipe that's going to eventually bring the water into our water system near Saticoy. And that is a project. We finally passed our EIR document. We are in final design preparation for construction. And what I've been told is that this project will likely be online in 2023. And it's going to be a critical boost to stabilizing our water system. And more importantly, state water is incredibly high quality water. So blending it with Ventura water is really going to raise the overall quality of our water here locally. The next slide. And then lastly, I'll at least want to address Ventura Water Pure, which is our new water reclamation facility, which is being considered right now. There's still a long way to go on this. Many of you may have heard about it. We recently had a workshop focused just on this project. In 2012, the city was sued by an environmental group in the Santa Clara River about the amount of water, the tertiary discharge water, and the amount of that water going into the Santa Clara estuary. And the result of that lawsuit was a consent decree. And that consent decree places many requirements on the city. And one of those being the amount of water that we can put back into the estuary. And secondly, the amount of water that we have to put towards reclamation projects moving forward. And so for the past several years, we've tried to do everything we can to find what the most effective, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly project we can do to meet the demands of this consent decree. We considered pumping it out to the spreading grounds out in at the United Water spreading grounds near the Freeman Diversion in Saticoy. We considered a partnership with the city of Oxnard and the reclamation facility that they have. And through all of this analysis and through all of this really intensive work our water department did, they came to the conclusion that the most cost-effective and the most positive option for Ventura moving forward is water pure. And not only will it help us meet these consent decree requirements, but it's going to give us city control over our water supply moving forward. The effects of climate change and drought conditions are unknown, but they're getting worse year after year. And with water reclamation, with water recycling, we are able to save all of the water in the city and recycle it, and to have that stable water supply moving forward. So even if we have an extreme drought year, we'll still have the stable water supply we need to keep living and to keep people in their houses and businesses moving forward. It's an expensive project, and I don't want to sugarcoat that. It's looking like it's close to $250 million, and we're in the middle of doing a rate study to see what that might mean to users. So I don't want to cover or hide the fact that it's a really expensive project. But moving forward, communities up and down the state are doing the same thing, and it's looking like Ventura will be on that same path, and a lot more information to share on Ventura Water Pure moving forward. Next slide, please. I also just really want to highlight what's coming to you soon. It won't be this council, but the next council. One of the biggest things they will do is work on the Ventura General Plan for 2050. This is the 20 to 30 year plan which shapes the future of Ventura, from housing to roads to transportation to how we want to grow, to the environment, to density, traffic, everything in between. This is the document which shapes the future of the city, and it's the biggest thing, probably the most important thing the next council will work on. But I mentioned it today is because we're currently recruiting for the General Plan Advisory Committee, which is going to be a committee of about 13 to 15 community members, which advise and guide the city council on this document. Something like the general plan has to involve the public. Outreach and community input are the most important features of a general plan, because a community needs to have a say in how it develops and grows. And so if you go to the city website, there is a tab that's www.cityofventura.ca.gov. Please click on that general plan tab. And if you are interested in serving on this general plan advisory committee, please do so. We are looking for qualified, eager applicants who want to have a say in how Ventura moves forward and want to have a say in this document. So please take the time. It's going to be about a year to 2 year commitment. But what a way to really get to know your city than serving on a committee like this. So please, looking forward to hearing from a lot of you who want to participate. Next slide, please. Obviously, talking about public participation, we have an election coming up in just over a month. There will be 3 city council members up, or 3 seats up, districts 2, 3, and 7. Councilmember Heitman and I have decided to retire from council. Councilmember Heitman, after 9 amazing years of service to our city, and I want to thank her for that. And that didn't even include the 8 years serving the college community college district before that. So she's given 17 years of her life to community service, and I commend her for that commitment to our community. But there's 3 seats up this year. 237. If you go to the city website, there's district maps which will tell you. You can ask or put your address in, and it'll tell you what district you're in, and if you have an election coming up. I just encourage. Everybody wants to talk about what's happening in Washington, but all politics is local in my book, and so please make sure you vote this year. Learn about the candidates, learn about the issues, and more importantly, just please vote. Many of you also probably have heard that with the pandemic, everyone will be receiving an absentee ballot this year. There will be polling places open from October 31st through November 3rd for those that want to vote in person, but everybody will have the option to vote by mail this year as well. So the emphasis there being whether it's in person or by mail, please vote. Next slide, please. This is all the ways that you can interact with the city. I wanted to at least leave you with that. Our new team of outreach specialists is constantly putting content on social media on our website. You see our website. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Name a social media site. The city has a page, and is pushing out content. So please make sure you follow the city of Ventura on all of its social media sites. Next page, please. And then this is in closing. That picture on the left is me being sworn in to city council about 4 years ago with council members Heitman and Councilmember Weir. I had a lot more hair back then, and it was a lot darker. The last 4 years, I look at that picture, and if you would have told me what we as a community would have endured in the 4 years after that picture was taken, I would have told you were crazy. From the Thomas fire to the murder at Aloha, to this COVID pandemic, to the social unrest we've seen across the country, we have just been faced with emergency after emergency after emergency. And it's been an incredibly trying 4 years. But I can tell you personally that I felt I've developed a lot of character being on council during this time. I hope all of you feel the same way, that you've achieved some personal growth through the difficult 4 years we've all been through. I genuinely believe I'm usually a cup half full kind of guy. And so I'm always optimistic and looking to the future. And I'm just incredibly optimistic about where the city is heading as I leave the city council. I think that we have strong leadership in place at the staff level, at the council level. We're going to have at least 2 new council members, some incredible candidates running who I think will bring a breath of fresh air and some new insight and new blood to the council, which is always good for an elected body, who will work well with the 4 who are staying behind, who've just been a pleasure to work with. So moving forward, I am just so excited about Ventura, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to the County Board of Supervisors, and I can tell you right now that one of the biggest goals I will have as a county supervisor is working with the cities in my district to see how the county can support those cities. I want to keep a strong bond with my colleagues on the council right now, with the electeds in Oxnard and Ojai, and I want to make sure the county is an entity that serves its cities. And so I can't wait to get on that board and to keep supporting Ventura. You will always have a friend in me, someone looking out for the best interests of Ventura. And in that picture, as it shows, I can't end without saying a few words about my wife and my daughters, my parents, Marty and Marianne, who are watching now, my sister Courtney and her husband Colin, and my niece and my nephew. Public service is family service. I can't tell you how many family dinners I've had to miss because of meetings at night, how many school activities I've had to miss, family trips that have had to be canceled. My wife and my 2 daughters, Lucia and Lorenza, have shared in this work just as much as I have. And I would never have been able to do it without their support, without their love. I am so blessed to be able to have this incredible family supporting me on the days when I didn't know how we were going to get through that day. The stresses that all of us were feeling, the pressure, it was often my family that provided that backup, that gave me that extra push to keep working. And I just want to leave it as I end my 4 years on council. I just want to thank my family because it would have never been possible without their love and without their support. And with that is my state of the city, my last state of the city. Again, it has been the honor of a lifetime to serve as mayor of Ventura. And I thank all of you for being there on that journey with me. And I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah. Are you muted, Stephanie, or is that me? Hey, Stephanie, I'm sorry. I think your mic is still off.
Stephanie, maybe you can use Brad next to you.
All right. Can you hear me now, Matt?
I can. There's a small echo, but I think if you turn off the other thing, it's good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So Matt, what I was trying to say is that we're getting a lot of comments online here about how great you and the city have really responded in these unusual times. And we truly, truly appreciate your efforts. We know that there's been a lot of sacrifice that you have made, but the progress that the city has made throughout this is really appreciated. And so before I get to a couple of the questions, I just wanted to thank you for your commitment and for all of the countless hours that you have put into this. You know, 22, I think you said 22 council meetings in the last 26 weeks. That is just the actual meeting. That doesn't count all of the preparation and information that goes into preparing for them. So I know that means a lot to me personally and our members, and we greatly appreciate it. So I just want to kind of jump into a few questions here. We have a number of business owners. I think that there's some frustration there, and maybe you can help explain some of these things. So Michelle, who is joining us from YouTube, who is a small business owner, basically has a couple of questions. She said that, small businesses aren't doing well. It's hard to live off reverse mortgage or waiting to open. So what is the city doing to potentially suspend rents or help to cover for those? And then who decides what businesses can open and with what restrictions?
Yeah, that's been one of the hardest parts for me personally during this pandemic. Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear Matt. Brad?
Okay. I'll look at the comments. Is my mic on? Okay, great. Thank you, Marlis. As I was saying, that's been one of the most difficult things for me, is having to comply with rules being put in place elsewhere and really not having much of a say in how those rules are implemented. All of the business closure rules, or I should say most of them, are coming out of Sacramento and Governor Newsom and his team up in Sacramento. There's some implementation being done at the county level through the public health officer, Dr. Levin, but even he largely is following the rules put in place by Sacramento. And that's hard because I hear the frustrations of business owners. Why can a nail salon be open but not a tattoo parlor? Why can a restaurant be open, not a hair salon? And I don't have answers frequently, and that's really hard for somebody in elected life to have answers for the people that they serve. But we are complying with the rules being put in place by Sacramento, and what we're trying to do everything we can within those rules to support small businesses. We had a rental eviction moratorium in place for over 6 months. We've now reverted back to the moratorium currently in effect at the state. But that's one thing we did to try to help small businesses. And moving forward, we have a team of Carrie, Glenn, and Estelle Busa, our economic development team, ready to meet the needs of any business owner in town. Those two women have been working around the clock to support local businesses. If you have any questions or concerns about how you might be able to operate in Ventura, given the current rules, please reach out to them.
Thank you, Matt. I also heard that our county CEO, Mike Powers, has joined us as well. And I know that last week he mentioned in the State of the County address that the county is working very closely with the state as well on some of those restrictions. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
also,
I want to add to that. I mean, Mike Powers and his team at the county, they are doing a lot of the lobbying with the state because they have the frequent communications, and I know that behind the scenes, they are working so hard to support small businesses through these conversations. They're doing everything they can to support small business, local business as well.
Thank you. So we have two more questions, and I know we're running out of time here, so I'm going to try and get through these fairly quickly. Another small business owner, Patricia, who's joining us on YouTube, she said, "Are state COVID mandates law or not? It's hard for small businesses to wait any longer." So similar theme. And then why do some businesses need outdoor expansion permits and others do not?
It is law, unfortunately. The governor's public health orders are state mandates that we have to comply with. And I think when it comes to outdoor operations, we are prepared to meet the needs of any business that wants to operate outdoors. We are here to help you. The difference might be whether you're reverting outdoors, if it's public or private property. Obviously, if it's going onto public property, we'll work with you on a quick permit process. We waived all of our fees there. Contrary to that rumor online, we're not charging people rent or permit fees. We've waived our fees to get people outdoors. The difference being, if you're in a private area, a private parking lot, you probably wouldn't need a city permit, but you would need to work with your landlord to see how that outdoor expansion would work.
Thank you. And then Kathy, who's joining us on Facebook, had a question about water. If the state gets standards in place for direct potable reuse in the next year or so, will the city return to the plan for DPR, or rather than continuing with the indirect potable reuse?
That's a decision which a future council will make. Right now, we've given the instruction to move forward with indirect, because those are the standards that are currently in place. And nobody on our current council felt comfortable moving forward on a technology which hasn't been fully vetted and with requirements in place yet. So right now we're moving forward with indirect. In 5 or 7 years, if permits and regulations get put in place for direct, that's a decision which a future council will decide.
Great. Thank you. And then Kathy from Facebook just had a question. I think she missed the numbers. Can you review the trade desk numbers again?
Sure. It's right now they have about 160 employees in our city. In talking with trade desk representatives about their future expansion, I have had several meetings with their executives about their expansion, and they're building their global headquarters right there on the corner of California and Maine. They're still moving forward on that, and their plans, their job growth plans, would double, possibly even triple the current numbers already in place. So we would have, between 500 and 600 people, high-paying jobs right in the middle of our downtown, which I think would be incredible.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, on behalf of the entire Chamber of Commerce and the business community, we thank you again for your sacrifices and your efforts on behalf of the city and helping us move forward. We recognize this has been a very difficult time and not something that the city asked for. No one asked for this, but here we are, and we're all in it together, and we appreciate that you've been at the helm of this. So thank you so much. We truly appreciate that, and we appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
So in addition to hearing from our mayor this morning, we also thought it might be helpful to provide a little update from some of our community partners, and to give you just a glimpse of a brief opportunity for them to provide some information on what's coming. We wanted this to end hopefully on a little positive note so that you see outside of just COVID, what else is going on in our community. And so the first of our 3 speakers is going to be Kevin Clorisi, who is the Executive Director of the Downtown Ventura Partners. And he is going to be talking a little bit about the Main Street Moves program. And I think we're going to kick it off with a short video.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning, and it's a real treat actually to follow Mayor LaVere. I want to echo the comments of just how grateful I am personally in just downtown to have you as our mayor. These have been such challenging times, and you've been so quick to reach out and offer a hand of service. And I just want to thank you for that. And I'm grateful that you're not going far. We're so glad that you're going to stay in the county and frankly represent us as our supervisor. This morning, I get an opportunity to share a little bit about our Main Street Moves initiative. And I love that this theme today is about reimagining our future out of COVID, because we can all remember when that global pandemic hit us in March, it affected all of us, and it was scary and trying. In downtown specifically, it hit all of our businesses. We're talking thousands of people, employees, that overnight changed how they operated. Rethink and reimagine how we were going to use our public spaces to serve them and serve the community. And that was the foundation that led to our Main Street Moves initiative. We have 6 city blocks in our historic core that have been closed to vehicular traffic and reimagined as public space for people, for a little, and it meets our dual goals that we wanted from the beginning. We wanted a chance for people to get out and be in the community, but have extra space and extra distance to be able to do that. But it also provided a really unique kind of innovative way for them to reconnect with their favorite businesses and reconnect with their favorite restaurants and their favorite small businesses. And I got to say, when we came up with this concept and approached the city in March, they didn't blink an eye, and we wouldn't be here without Mayor LaVere's leadership, but the entire city council's leadership that really said, look, these are unprecedented times and we need to do something to try and support our small businesses. And that really, put us all in action to come up with the best plan that we could of how we were going to be able to close these streets and make it this inviting sort of unique space that it would become. And that video shared a little bit about it. And sure enough, if you come and if you've had a chance to come downtown, hopefully you've had a meal outside and seen how restaurants have been able to use this opportunity to bring their tables outside into the street because they can't serve indoors. Same with our retailers. They've had an opportunity to kind of show their wares outside, but also allow their customers to re-engage with their stores and have a little more space if they want, as they're waiting to maybe come inside and to interact and frankly not be forced on the sidewalk as they would be if we didn't have the opportunity to open our streets. I want to thank, our partners. We couldn't do this without them. The city staff really stepped up. It's been mentioned, but it's worth mentioning again. The Parks Department under Nancy O'Connor, the Police Department, and helping us with our barricades under Chief Schindler, Estelle and Carrie in the Economic Development Division. It's just so many people, and to this day, we're still trying to figure out a way forward. I'm happy to announce this morning that we got a big vote of confidence from the City Council in recent weeks, and they have approved and extended the closure into February 15th, 2021. So we will have the Main Street moves through the holidays, and we are working hard now on getting it prepared. It's going to get darker earlier. It's going to get chillier. And so our restaurants in particular are taking steps to create a unique and comfortable space for people to continue to support them. There certainly have been challenges, and certainly the takeaway from this for anyone watching this, I encourage you and urge you to keep supporting your small local businesses and find ways that you can shop local and support them local. We've been in constant contact with our stakeholders, we call them our downtown family, our businesses, and it's some sobering, truths here to where, about 1 in 6 retailers have said, they're worried about making it through beyond Christmas. And in restaurants, it's almost half that have also told us that in response to this pandemic, it's been a real challenge and continues to be a real challenge to be able to meet their needs and keep their employees, employed and to pay their bills and their rent. And so I'm happy to report that the Main Street Moves literally has helped businesses stay open and continues to do that because they've been able to find unique and sort of innovative ways to be able to stay in business. But I also, want to put a call out to our community of how important it is to support the, small businesses in your neighborhood, down your block, any way you can. And that's from, all walks, any way that you can support them. The Main Street Moves obviously is sort of unique to the downtown core, but as Matt had mentioned, the foundation of it and the ability for other businesses to expand outside now exists for really any business citywide, and I think we've learned a lot from that and better prepared now if anyone else wants to try and learn from this and do the same. We hope that others experience that. I know in the Ventura Harbor there's great opportunities, South Seaward great opportunities, even on the East End there's unique places to go and shop, and I encourage you to support that. And with that, it's been a real pleasure to be here and give you a little introduction to our Main Street Moves.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate all your efforts. I know it didn't just magically happen. A lot of hard work went into that. And if you have not had an opportunity to see the transformation of our downtown, I encourage you to take a few minutes, take an afternoon, take an evening, go downtown and check out one of our small businesses. And if you have a favorite restaurant downtown, just think of what our community would be like without them. Please support local, support our businesses, and support Main Street Moves. And now we have yet another community leader who is going to be addressing another issue that has become even more prominent during the COVID crisis. So unfortunately, we know that there have been so many that have struggled right here in our own community, even more so now because of the pandemic. Fortunately, we have a lot of incredible organizations and nonprofits who are focused on filling these needs. And one of those is Food Share of Ventura County. Here to tell us a little bit more about Food Share and how they've been assisting is President and CEO Monica White. Welcome, Monica. And I believe we are also going to kick this one off with a short video.
Hi, I'm Monica White, President and CEO of Food Share, Ventura County's largest hunger relief organization. A lot of people ask me, Monica, what does Food Share actually do? So let's go on inside and I'll show you around. Come on. We are responsible for collecting, storing, and distributing over 17 million pounds of food every year. From our 36,000 square feet of warehouse space, we supply millions of pounds of food to our community partners. Frontline organizations such as food pantries, homeless shelters, and hot meal sites that work directly with people in the community. And we provide food via our programs, such as senior kits and Kids Farmers Market. In recent months, a quarter of our pantry partners who distribute food to the community have had to close. So you'll also have seen us distributing food direct through 150 emergency food distributions throughout the county. We rely on an incredible family of volunteers and an experienced team of professionals to ensure that Food Share runs smoothly.
Food Share receives food from many different sources. The U.S. Department of Agriculture provides shelf-stable pantry items like rice, pasta, oatmeal, and canned vegetables and proteins. Supermarkets provide surplus product like bread. We glean produce from our neighbors' abundant backyards. Grow wonderful produce for seniors in our VC AAA Nutrition Garden. Our generous farmers donate pallets of fresh fruits and vegetables. And we purchase the rest direct in bulk from food manufacturers.
There's one other critically important source of food. Our generous community here in Ventura County, who in normal times donate thousands of cans to food drive events like Cantry. The reality is that many Americans are just one job loss or medical crisis away from food insecurity. Food insecurity means that a person is lacking reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. Even before the pandemic, roughly 75,000, or 1 in 6 Ventura County residents, were considered food insecure. The vast majority of those are low-wage working individuals and families, for whom illness, an unexpected expense, or a sudden job loss means financial hardship that can rapidly lead to a struggle to put food on the table.
The economic impact of the pandemic means that many more people in our community are facing food insecurity for the first time. 150,000 people a month are now seeking our support. That's double the number we served before the pandemic. In July of 2020, we distributed 3.7 million pounds of food. You heard that right, 3.7 million pounds of food. That's the most amount of food we have ever distributed in 1 month in our history. We know the impact of this pandemic is going to be with us and our community for many months and even years to come. We know there's not just one solution, one donor, one answer for solving hunger in Ventura County. But with the continued support of you, our community, and utilizing all available resources, time, money, and food, we can and will meet the need.
Because no one should go hungry.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think I'm off mute now. I will keep this very short. Thanks so much for having me here today. Food Share is so proud to be able to continue to be able to serve those in need in Ventura and also all of our other cities in Ventura County. Double the amount of people need food. They need support right now. We have a new word. We don't like to use the word unprecedented either, but it's newly unemployed. There's so many people who need the support because their business has been shut down. They're unable to meet the needs of their families. So what we need from you is continued support. And you are absolutely the direct reflection of the generosity of what we're able to do. So thank you so much. If you are interested, we have a new app. It's so exciting. And you can go on there and you can find out how you can help Food Share, help those in our community. We need help by volunteers. We need help with food donations, and we always can use your dollars. For every $1 we can buy $5 worth of food. So thank you so much. We appreciate your help, and thank you for allowing me to share the incredible work that our team is doing here in Ventura County. Monica, thank you so much. We always appreciate having you, and it's always good to hear an update. Know that you guys are doing such great work, and where would we be without Food Share? So thank you very much. So we want to end on a positive note and to provide you all with some thoughts and inspiration of what may be in store in the future, maybe even the near future. For those of you who know our next speaker, you know she is just that, positive, inspirational, and truly a force working on behalf of the Ventura community every single day. Please welcome Marlis Oster, the President and CEO of Ventura Visitors and Convention Bureau, also known as Visit Ventura, for a sneak peek at something really exciting for our entire community to enjoy. And I think, Marlis, we're also going to start with a brief video.
Yeah. Tightest turns I've ever seen any course ever. And we've been running every weekend in La Costa, and it's tight. We don't run them this tight usually. It's good. It's fun. It's fun that way. The harder it is, the more fun it is.
Hey everybody, I'm professional surfer Mary Osborne, and I am super excited to hear that the X Games are hopefully coming to my hometown of Ventura, California in 2021.
What's good? Bring the X Games back to California, bring them to Ventura.
Hey, bring the X Games back to California, Ventura to be exact.
Surfing, skating, hiking, biking, it's what we are. We're an outdoor city. So it's a perfect match with the X Games. You're meeting with the X Games folks and the ESPN folks and understanding that on average, each Games has a $50 million impact on the local community. That just gets me so excited about the possibilities here in Ventura.
Really, the X Games brings, thousands of hotel room nights and thousands of visitors. I think also the X Games will piggyback directly into the fair, and I think our residents have come to enjoy the summer fair each year, and the X Games just presents sort of a different opportunity and a different experience from the fair.
The X Games has already proven to be a fantastic partner. We have been working very closely with them on visioning of what this could be in the city of Ventura. One of the great things about the X Games team is they really want to partner closely with the cities in which they are having their event. There'll be small impacts to the community. I see the benefit being larger on the whole.
The U.S. is under a national state of emergency, and while several states and cities across the nation have shut down restaurants and bars.
3.8 million Americans have signed on for jobless benefits last week.
Yeah, the COVID, it's been terrible. I've never seen anything like this in my career. We're down close to 80% in revenues. I've had to lay off approximately 70% of our staff in all of our hotels in Ventura County. So it's just devastating for us and for all of our associates.
What about these great businesses that are going to want to be here because this is where the elite athletes come? What about, the new skateboard shops, different things like that are going to come specifically because of the X Games. It's going to create a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunity for so many, and obviously we've all been through so much, and to have something like this to really look forward to is really great.
The marketing value itself is something that we could never afford as a community or organization, the cities even combined. The tourism itself, the TOT, 100% goes to the city. So it does help with our fire departments, our police departments, city streets. This is something very, very vital for the economics of the city itself.
It's going to put us on the international spotlight and get us more media attention so that our economy thrives and us as residents still get to enjoy what we love. Any other destination would go nuts to have something like this to really pull us out of where we're at right now.
Seeing the hotels work together, the city staff working together, the mayor, the council members, Marlis with the Visitors Bureau and Barbara with the fairgrounds, it's just exciting to see that we as a community can get together and bring something this grand and this great to the city of Ventura.
We look at this and we know that tourism is probably one of the first sectors that's going to start to tick back up. And thanks to the work that Visit Ventura has done, I think we'll see that, of course.
This event, we're gonna feel it. And it's gonna feel like the right fit because they're wonderful partners and they care about the community and the people in it. We're gonna be so grateful we had this.
Hi. So yeah, I was smiling during that whole presentation because it just gets me super excited. So we've been through a lot. We've been working on this for a long-term partnership. It never was, let's just do it for 1 year. So we still talk every week. We're talking to the ESPN crew and X Games team and continue to work towards imagining what this partnership will be like for 2021 and moving ahead. So I'm very optimistic on what the future will bring to our small businesses, to our community, to us being in the spotlight, really driving the economics of our city so that we as residents get to continue to enjoy such the beautiful place that we call home, which is Ventura. So I'm proud to do the work and represent you all in getting the most for our community. And thank you so much for having me. And we continue on. And we're excited about what the future holds. I hope that you are too.
We're very excited, Marlis. Thank you so much. And we appreciate all that you do to continue to promote Ventura as a destination when people are ready to start traveling again. So thank you. So there have been a number of comments throughout this feed, and a couple I just want to mention again. It is great to feel the community support. We are all in this together. We are Ventura Strong, and we will survive this by working together. So thank you for the community for the support. And even when we have disagreements or we don't always feel the same way on things, to have that kind of dialogue is truly important. Something else that's come up a couple of times in the feed is a question about the city charging for the outdoor permits, and that is not true. The city is not charging a permit fee to any restaurant or business that wants to expand outdoors, not just through Main Street Moves, but citywide. And I know that there have been a lot of businesses, definitely Main Street Moves is the model, but throughout the city, we have a number of small businesses, restaurants, that have been able to create an outdoor space, which in a city like Ventura, where we have this incredible weather year round, why wouldn't we want to eat outdoors? So thank you for that. And thanks to the city for not charging a fee and making that process a whole lot easier for the businesses to actually go through. There is a dedicated team working on handling each and every one of those applications as they come through. So thank you for that. So I just, again, want to thank all of our speakers today. This program is designed as informational to get all of the work that these organizations are doing out into our community so that you have a sense, it's like a snapshot of what's been happening and how our city is working on your behalf. And obviously from a number of other community leaders, their organizations, and what they're doing here in Ventura. I would also like to thank my staff, Ashley Pope and Michelle McGuire. They are truly two of the hardest working women I've ever met, and I appreciate their dedication and commitment to the chamber and to the business community. And I'd like to thank each of you for joining us today, taking an hour and a half out of the middle of your day to hear a little bit more about what's going on and provide us with some feedback. Again, I think we've thrown a lot of information at you. I encourage you to visit the city website. There's so much going on. If you're interested in helping to shape the future of Ventura, check out that general plan advisory committee. The applications are up online. They're definitely looking for engaged community members to help support that process. And just once again, thank you all for joining us this morning. It's a little unusual. We've had a couple little technical glitches, but we really appreciate you sticking it out with us and being here and supporting local and being a part of our community. So stay Ventura strong and make it a great day. Thank you so much.